Hello and welcome to Inside and Out with Patricia Stark. I am Patricia Stark, joined by my co-pilot, Lynn Cimetti. How are you today, Lynn?
Good, thank you. How are you today?
I am doing great, and we are really excited for our show today for several reasons. We have on as our guest Stefanie Ziev, who is a life coach who's been on Good Morning America and the Today Show, and she's got another segment coming up at the Today Show, and she's going to be with us today talking about women's communication skills, why we're so darn hard on ourselves and other women. So that's something to stay tuned for. And the next thing that we're super excited about is that our show has a sponsor. Woo!
That's very exciting.
Bailey's Smokehouse in Blauvelt, New York.
One of my favorite places to go.
Awesome family place. Me and my family go there, and it's a great place to go dancing with your honey or the girls on a Saturday night. They are sponsoring Inside and Out, so we have a great spot for them. So hit it, Steve.
Sponsored by Bailey's Smokehouse, the best barbecue east of the Mississippi, 166 Erie Street East, Blauvelt, New York. Bailey's has a unique smoking process, providing outstanding, authentic barbecue, including a wide variety of other traditional Southern dishes, steaks, burgers, pizza, and more. Family owned for 18 years, Bailey's Smokehouse is the place to eat, relax, watch the game with over 17 TVs. Bailey's also offers a takeout-only location at 69 Railroad Avenue in West Haverstraw. For a mouth-watering meal in a family atmosphere, visit Bailey's Smokehouse. Check out their website at baileysny.com or call 365-4004. Bailey's Smokehouse. Not just good, smoking good.
Smoking good. And you know what's really smoking good that they have there too? One of my favorites. Have you ever had their corn souffle, Lynn?
Oh my gosh.
Oh
yes.
my gosh.
Yes.
I know people who buy it ahead of time and serve it as a side dish at Thanksgiving or any family gatherings.
It's good stuff.
Yeah, I want to eat the whole thing. So, all right, moving on to the rest of our show today. We're so thankful for that. And Stefanie Ziev is going to be joining us soon. And she is a former TV executive turned a certified life coach and the author of the forthcoming book, Am I Sure? S-U-R-E. She helps busy professional women who feel an urgency to do and be something greater in their life and to have a fiery power of their own, trust themselves, and express their purpose, which is a lot of what we do here on Inside and Out. As a TV development consultant, Stefanie helped networks, production companies, and executives to elevate their business by developing and selling scripted and non-scripted TV shows, some pretty cool shows that people would know about. She spent 14 years as an award-winning senior development executive. She worked at DreamWorks and the Oxygen Network, and she was nominated for some Emmys. As a coach, she is known for taking esoteric themes in life and turning them into simple, user-friendly tools, which we're going to do today, that are going to help people to trust themselves and own their own power. And she's funny, she's engaging, she challenges her clients to really boldly go into that world, into that place where no man has gone before, right? She really has a serious aversion to clutter, which Lynn is going to love.
Oh,
because
I do
Lynn,
love that.
in another life, in a separate life, is an organizer. So she really helps us go through all the clutter, I think, in our personal life, but in our mental life as well. And she is a certified member of the International Coach Federation and designated as the Associate Certified Coach for ICF. And she is still studying towards spiritual psychology at the master's level. And we're just so happy, and I believe she's on the line. Stefanie, are you there?
I am here. How are you?
Good, and welcome to the show. We're so happy to have you.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
And meet Lynn, Steph.
Hi, Lynn.
Hi, how are you? Nice
Good.
to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
So, Steph, we told our listeners a little bit about you, and I was hoping that you could tell us from your point of view why you chose to become a life coach, and what does that really mean? What does a life coach mean, and why would someone need one?
That is the question of the day, isn't it?
Yes.
It's a life coach is simply someone who supports you in meeting the goals that you've been setting for your entire life. So often people make resolutions, they want to lose 10 pounds, they want to change their job, they want a new relationship, but there's no accountability for that. Mm-hmm. And so a coach in the most professional partnership sense really is an accountability partner to help you reach and achieve those goals.
So someone that you can check in with, someone that reinforces and pumps you up, kind of like the reason they say if you want to start working out, get a buddy, different things like that, to where you just have a sounding board and somebody who can kind of keep you on task.
Totally.
All right, beautiful. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about, well, first of all, congratulations. I know that you had a segment on the Today Show called Coach Me If You Can, and you came up with that concept, right?
I did, and in fact, I'm going to be on again on June 7th, I was told. So
great. So all of our listeners listening, make sure that you tune in for that. That's really exciting. Congrats on that.
Thank you.
So what we wanted to talk to you about today is women's communication skills. And you and I have spoken about this before, the fact that we are pretty darn hard on ourselves as human beings, but women seem to be even better at this in many ways. And sometimes that spills over into why we're hard on other women. So from your perspective as a life coach and from working all the years that you have as a working woman, can give us some insight on why first you think we're so hard on ourselves as women?
I think that there's two reasons. I think that, and this is really generalizing, but I feel that the media has presented this perfect version of a woman that we're constantly trying to live up to. And I also think that, on a more personal level, we've inevitably probably adopted a voice that is not ours from our childhood, if I may get psychological. But oftentimes I will ask my clients or myself, who is the one speaking at the moment? Because I believe that we have many parts of ourselves. I often encourage clients to think about a dining room table, and if you had to place each part of yourself around that table, who would be there? So it might include mother, daughter, sister, brother, but it also would include taskmaster, critic, judge, sadness, happiness, achiever, procrastinator. It's like a whole family that you have within you that is sometimes functional and sometimes dysfunctional. So I think the question is always who's sitting at the head of the table.
I love it.
And who's running that show.
Yes. And I suppose that we do get to pick that, and we forget that we decide who's at the head of that table.
Yeah, and I think it becomes an opportunity to really just create that awareness within us. And I think that awareness has to prior to us making decisions or reacting. So it's, if we can become aware of those moments when we're really being most hard on ourselves, most critical of ourselves, it can be actually identified also by how we are treating other women, or anyone really. But I believe that everything is a projection. So if we are criticizing others, it's really just a reflection of how we are criticizing ourselves. And the opportunity for change comes in taking ownership of that, because that's the only place that change can happen.
Okay, so then what do you suggest to your clients in the best way to take that ownership and make that change?
Well, the first thing is the awareness. It's really just about stopping for a second, that when you feel, however it is that you can stop yourself from the cycle of abuse, if you will, because it is abuse. I mean, it does become an abusive relationship with ourselves and therefore others, right?
Yeah.
So if there's an opportunity to kind of observe without judgment, where is my energy right now? What am I thinking about? Am I really beating myself up? If I just put these jeans on and they didn't fit, did I make myself bad and wrong for that? Am I seeing a woman on TV that I'm judging myself against at this point? So the first part is awareness.
Yeah.
And what are those thoughts? And typically any of those critical, negative, or judgmental thoughts are stopping us from forward movement. So there's kind of an arrested development in that aspect as well. So then I think the opportunity is just, at first it's really just about observing without judgment. It's just, oh, that's so interesting, I just judged myself. Or, oh, that's so interesting, I just criticized this woman in my head.
Yeah.
So, and then I think from there, it's a matter of the awareness is going to breed change if one chooses to do so and commits to doing so.
Okay.
So
then stop yourself when you find yourself judging your own self or someone else, and acknowledge it, notice it, say, why am I doing that?
Or not even why. I think why gets us into a cycle of more judgment.
Okay.
And I think the opportunity, at least to start, is just to observe it and just to not judge it and just not even ask why.
Okay.
Just to say, that's so interesting. Make it interesting. Get curious. Be the Buddha.
Yeah, I love that. Be the Buddha. So our show, we always try to address both women and men when it comes to communication skills. And today we are focusing a little bit more on women, as we mentioned. But how do you think, when you work with different clients, how do you feel that women and men communicate differently, whether it's internally to themselves or externally to the world? What do you see as the differences?
I think men are more single focused. I think it does go back to a primal thing in many ways, that the men were the hunters and the women were the gatherers, and as a result I think women communicate in the details and men communicate in the singular purpose. Men are, there's the deer, I'm going to hunt, I need the meat, I'm going to get him, and then we're going to go, and it's like, and that's in some ways the way they tell stories and the way they communicate. There's a single focus, and there's a need, and then they meet it, right?
Yeah.
And women, I think, are more about, they're just gathering the information, they're gathering the day, they're making sure everybody's okay, they communicate in a more holistic way, and I think that there's a connection in sharing the details. Women also don't necessarily need to be fixed or need there to be a result in their communication sometimes, but I think sometimes the difference with men and women is that women will kind of come home and want to dump their day just because they gathered all day, and now they just want to, like, there's a saying about dumping the basket.
Yes.
And men, I think, want to then fix the basket and fix all the stuff that was just dumped and find solutions. And women sometimes are like, no, honey bunny, I just want to share the information.
Yeah, I'm not asking you to fix it, but yet they're compelled to fix it, and they think we're asking them to fix it.
Yes. So I think part of the communication between the men and women is benefits from women expressing their need before they tell their long, detailed story.
Okay, got it. All right. So how can we, if we're talking about speaking better to ourselves so that we don't outwardly judge ourselves, or inwardly judge ourselves and outwardly judge other women, how can we flip the switch and create a sisterhood among the women in our lives, or the women that we meet through work or where we see in the world, whatever it may be, that builds everybody up and supports each other, rather than having this judgment being the white elephant in the room?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I had said to you at one point that if there really were a sisterhood, there would be no infidelity, because women would put themselves in every other woman's shoes, and we would not see each other as the enemy or the person that I'm judging myself against, or the person that I'm aspiring to be, but rather my sister, who is also a mother, who is also a daughter, who is also a wife, a girlfriend, a partner. So I think that if we were able to take responsibility for the projection that we see and, identify with each other as human beings rather than something that's in the way or that is out to get me or that is better than me or less than me. So I think it's about taking that responsibility for ourselves, putting them in the other person's shoes. And then I think that sisterhood thing is also about a general respect for ourselves and each other. And so what does that mean? We have the power to own our own stuff and to start to support others. And I think that it's really just about opening our eyes and our minds and our hearts at a greater level, both to ourselves first, because that's where the change comes, and then that will spill out and ripple into the world.
Right, very good. Let's talk a little bit about trust, because as far as I'm concerned, I think trusting yourself as a human being, as a person, is a foundation for pretty much everything, whether it's confidence or reaching your goals or how you respect yourself or treat other people. How do you offer to your clients ways and tools to help empower them more to learn to trust themselves more?
I am writing an entire book about this very thing, because I say I was not born with the I totally trust myself gene. I feel like people perceive me as powerful and in my body and totally present, and I think that a lot of women probably identify with that there's a perception and then there's then there's the truth that we know inside. And I have been someone who really has had consequences from not listening to myself, not trusting myself, handing that power over to others. And I have, in the process, had to create a tool to help me literally snap myself into the present so that I can consciously say to myself, am I sure? And what that means to me is, am I safe? Am I understood? Am I respected? And am I empowered? As opposed to, am I stressed, uncomfortable, rejected, and enraged? And so that, again, is a moment to just kind of take a breath before I make a decision about anything or before my clients make a decision about anything, and to just check in with the inner authority as opposed to just handing it over immediately, trusting, immediately giving your power away, and really just connecting with really the truth that's within.
I'm so glad you just defined that, because in our intro of you, and we talked about how your upcoming book is Am I Sure? S period, U period, R period, E period. You just defined the two meanings of that title, which is terrific. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and my real dream is that when the book comes out, that also is accompanied by a bracelet that you can buy that's lovely, that just says, Am I Sure? So now it becomes, I'm visual. I need this. I am still learning this lesson. You know, it comes up every day in my life, so I want to be able to look down at something to say, oh, right, no, am I sure?
Yeah.
It's not about are you sure, and it's not about what do you think I should do or who do you think I should be. It's what do I want, need, who am I, what makes sense for me, and not in a selfish way, but actually in an empowered way and in a loving way to oneself.
Yeah, I like that. I think that visual reminders are very powerful, and any time that we can have something that we look down at as a reminder or will catch as a reminder, even maybe by accident, all of a sudden we'll see it on the wrist. I love that idea, so I think you absolutely need to do that, Stefanie.
Yes, and trust is such an esoteric thing, and in my experience, it's a muscle that needs to be built. It's not an overnight fix. It's not something that happens quickly, and it's an opportunity to just exercise it every day.
Yes, I agree. So let's talk about, in addition to trust, what can we do every day to help us find joy in life? As a life coach, I'm sure that you do many things, and I'm assuming that one of them must be, how do we find joy every day?
I think that gratitude is very kind of cliche, but really powerful. And if there's a way to just start one's day in a way that is thankful for what is here now, instead of wishing for the thing that hasn't yet arrived, we will be in a much better state of mind as we go into our day. So finding joy in life, I believe, really starts there, because it also brings us back to the present when we're in gratitude. It's like, oh, right, I'm healthy. I have a family that loves me. I have a roof over my head. I have food. You know, it's like you can be as basic as you want, and then you can go into the extravagance. And you can also be grateful for what hasn't yet arrived that you are, positively anticipating is coming. And then I think the other thing is finding the joy is also knowing that you do have the power to be aware of your thoughts and, if need be, change them. And I think another simple way to find joy is to call a friend or a family member and tell them what you appreciate, love, admire, respect about them, and then look in the mirror and own those qualities in yourself and let that run your joy-filled life. I think that that's an opportunity to just really, at least mentally and emotionally, step into your day. And then, honestly, it doesn't really matter. Everything else, that joy, the difference between joy and happiness, joy is within. Joy comes from within. And happiness is more external.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really good advice. One thing that keeps coming up through our conversation is being in the moment, really being where you are right here and now. And I think so many people carry the past around like luggage, and it really weighs them down, and think about the future before it doesn't even exist yet. And I don't know, I think it was Dale Carnegie that talked about living in day-tight compartments and even hour-tight compartments where, there really is nothing else that does exist other than this very moment. Neither the past or the future is even a reality in this moment. And I think that anything that we can do to really be fully present has got to make a huge difference in our lives.
Yeah, and I would say that another thing that's been helpful for me recently to shift into a present state of mind, because I think it's very easy to get mired in our own lives, and when I am able to become aware of those, especially going back to the critical thoughts and the perfection or the procrastination or whatever comes with that, I always say perfection plus pressure equals procrastination. And the way to get out of that, partly, I think, or at least one way, is to shift from a me mentality to a we mentality. That when we get out of ourselves, when we just help another person, when we reach out and ask, what can I do for you, as opposed to getting in the spin cycle of beating ourselves up and feeling whatever we're feeling, whatever the critical mind is thinking at that moment. Another opportunity to get present is to go outside of ourselves.
Yeah, I think that's really true. I mean, studies even show people who volunteer get sick less because they're not getting stuck in their whole own muck and mire, like you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really great. So we have a few minutes left, Stefanie. How can people reach you? What is your website so they can find out about your TV appearances, your upcoming book?
My website is www.stefanieziev.com, which is spelled funny. It's S-T-E-F like Frank, A-N-I-E, and my last name, Z like zebra, I-E Edward, V Victor.com.
Okay, great. And your upcoming appearance on the Today Show is?
June 7th in the 9 o'clock hour. I don't have the specific time yet, but it will be on my website.
All right, great. All right, so we have a few minutes left. What are some other things as a life coach that you work on with your clients that maybe we haven't touched on yet that you think is important for our listeners to hear?
You know, I think at the core of anything that I do with people come to me for many different reasons, including finding a new career, starting their own business, re-entering the workforce, making more money, up-leveling their life in general. And I believe that regardless of why they come to me, the bottom line is what we were talking about earlier. It's really first about fiercely owning your power and trusting yourself so that you can go into the world and express yourself from a purpose-filled place. So that's the essence of what it is.
That's the essence of it. All right, great. And, give us some more ideas on how we can be more kind to ourselves in the way that we talk to ourselves. I mean, because it's been shown many, many times that I think it's something like 77% of human self-talk tends to be negative. And this is for both men and women. And I know that it's always also been said that it's been scientifically proven that we cannot think a positive thought and a negative thought simultaneously. So give us some tips on how to make that switch, how to make sure that we're speaking kind to ourselves, and when that critical voice or that inner critic comes forward, how do we make that interchange so that we can flip that negative to a positive?
I think there's a fun exercise you can do, which is you can get a piece of paper and write and just make 2 columns, and you can do this for many different people, but in one so at the top of it, on the one column to the left, just write someone that you admire, respect, love, think highly of, whatever it is. You can know them. They can be dead or alive. It could be a celebrity. It could be a family member. It could be a friend, anything, and put their name at the top. And in that column, just start writing all the qualities that you love, admire, respect about them. And under their name, say the beauty or on top of their name, you can say the beauty I see in blank, the beauty I see in Oprah, the beauty I see in my mother, the beauty I see in my teacher, it doesn't matter, is all of these things. And then the next column is at the top, and the beauty I see in myself is, and it's all those same things. So I think that that's an opportunity. That's the positive projection. That's a way to kind of acknowledge what is within us, because we cannot see anything in another person that we don't already own.
That's very
powerful. It's really about starting to own your gifts, own your light, own your skills, own your talents, and starting to share that with the world in a greater way. Because every time we are diminishing ourselves or beating ourselves up, we're just taking gifts away from the world. It's stopping you from a forward movement, whether it's just to go outside or just to interact with the world. It doesn't matter what it is, but it's actually a disservice to the world if you are beating yourself up.
Yeah, I really believe that. I think that minimizing ourselves is never going to help us build others up or help others in any other way.
Exactly. And the way to build ourselves up is to think about how do we build others up. And if you can't do it yourself, then ask a friend. Tell me 5 things that you love about me. Remind me who I really am, because I have a false view at the moment.
Yes. And I like this projection of this list, and I think that it can also work for when you walk around during the day. When you see other women, you see other people that maybe where you might have had judgment, how about replacing that with what do I like about that person? What looks good? What sounds good? Like, just focus on labeling something right about everybody that you come in contact with throughout the day.
I love it. I have a tendency sometimes. I'm a curvy girl, and I have a tush, and I have. There have been many women on the street of all different shapes and sizes and colors and whatever, and I sometimes look at these really curvy women, and I'm like, oh, my God, she owns it. She is wearing that well. I love this woman. Yes. And then I go home and I beat myself up. I'm like, wait a second. She was probably 25 pounds heavier than me. Yes. I was just celebrating her and her curves. She was owning it and wearing tight clothes and, minimizing, like the little waist and the big tush. And, I loved her. Why can't I love me? So I try to bring that home now and remember that.
That's great, because we really are, as we started at the top of the show, we really are so good at minimizing ourselves and then maximizing what we think other people own or have or do or be or whatever it may be. And I think that we just need to focus on getting better at maximizing ourselves and others. Yes,
I said on the Today Show, just one of my favorite statements is compare and despair, and it needs to shift. It's like when you notice that you're comparing and despairing, that's an opportunity to just either call a friend or go into gratitude or just kind of get out of that old tape. It's just an old tape. It doesn't exist. It's not real. It's not the truth.
Right, I love it. And then I'd like to wrap up again revisiting that dining room table that you talked to us about, because I think it's brilliant. It's wonderful. It reminded me of, I don't know if you remember, there was an old show in the 90s, I think, called Herman's Head. And in his head, he had all these different people, and they all were it was like different holidays in his head, and they were all different parts of his personality who would chime in throughout the day. So as you were describing the people around the dining room table, I'm thinking about Herman's Head, and it was beautiful. And I loved how each of those aspects of our personality or our judgment or other things that family and friends have said sitting around that table, and I just really am thrilled. I'm going to say that to myself. Who is at the head of my table right now or today or this morning or during this thing that I'm challenged by? I think that it was beautiful, Steph.
Yeah, and it's not also the important thing. It's not about then judging the judge. It's not about then eradicating these parts. It's about managing them, and it's about kind of seeing them as kids who are they're just wounded, and they have some trauma, and they're really scared. So if you are a mother, or even just, if you've been a camp counselor, it doesn't matter. But it's about taking those parts and saying, oh, my goodness, you are so unhappy right now. I really hear how unhappy you are. Come sit on my lap. I'm going to sit on my lap, but I'm going to run the show. It's like, be the healthy adult. Yes. Be how you would be with your kids.
That's great. That's great advice. Well, thank you so much. We cannot thank you enough for joining us today.
Thanks, Steph. It was really awesome information for everybody.
It really was. And good luck on the Today Show. And we will all be waiting impatiently for your book. Give us the title again and tell us when you think we can buy it.
It's called Am I Sure? The working subtitle is A Litmus Test for Life, but that may change. Okay. And oh my goodness, my dreamy dream is that it comes out at mid-2014. Okay. So that's my goal. But thank you guys so much. I'm so grateful for the chat, and I really appreciate your time.
Oh, thank you. And it's Stefanieziev.com, which is STEFANIE, Z as in zebra, IEV.com.
Perfect.
Great. Make it a great day, Steph.
Thank you. You guys too.
Thanks again. Take care. Bye-bye. Bye. And that just about wraps it up for Inside and Out with Patricia Stark. And we've got about 2 minutes left, so I hear the phone ringing. So before we end it, let's just see if that is a phone call or not. And Lynn, wasn't that fantastic?
Yeah, that was fantastic.
It was. We do have a phone caller. Hi, awesome. You're on Inside and Out with Patricia Stark.
Good morning, Tricia. That was a great show. Once again, very informative and was very receptive to it.
Oh, thank you.
One thing, though, I have a question. I missed the show that you talked about when it's okay to curse. And I'm a businessman. I own a few businesses, and I amongst friends, I curse a lot. And I was just curious. The guy just sold his Tumblr business for $1.1 billion, and he signed off. Yeah, he signed off like F yeah, and I talked to some people who found that very discouraging because their kids are into technology and know this guy and know the whole Tumblr story. But when is it okay? I know you only have a minute, but is there an archive of that show? Because that was the one show that I missed. And I thought all your shows have been...
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate it. Yes, what I actually do after each show is I edit it with some graphics and I post it on my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Patricia Stark COM, which is short for communications. So it's youtube.com/Patricia Stark COM, and all of the shows are archived on there, and we will continue to do that as well.
That's great. I'm gonna go take a look at that show. You have an amazing day. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate the call. All right, and that's it for Inside and Out. Please visit us at patriciastark.com or youtube.com/patriciastark.com and make it a great day. We'll see you soon.
Baby, you're a firework. Come on, show 'em why you work. Make 'em go, as you should have.